Friends, the GST law is becoming more and more stringent, very stringent day by day, as far as availment of input tax credit by the recipients of goods or services is concerned. This is our third video in the series on input tax credit issues, restrictions, limitations, and dealing with such issues. So first, the current issue on restriction under section 16(2)(a) for availment of input tax credit only to the extent of ITC available in GSTR 2B. There are three issues which are actually issues of GST network, but I am sure which will involve issuance of queries by the department. In case of ITC on reverse charge basis is concerned, where you are taking input tax credit on the GST paid by you on reverse charge, then there can be two circumstances. The supplier of the goods or service on which you are paying the GST on reverse charge basis and availing input tax credit, the supplier is a registered person, say the GTA is a registered person, and the GTA does not tag in its GSTR 1 the respective invoices on which you as a recipient would be paying GST on reverse charge basis, then while availing the input tax credit in the GSTR 3B, there would be an error which would be reflected. And similarly, where the GTA, for example, or the provider of the service on which you are paying ITC or GST on reverse charge and availing input tax credit is unregistered, in that case the GSTR 3B is showing an error. Also, in case of import of goods or services, where in case of imports of goods, say the bill of entry by which you have paid the GST is not reflecting in your GSTR 3B, but you have got the bill of entry physical copy, you have got the tax payment challan, then also the GSTR 3B is showing an error if the corresponding input tax credit is not available in GSTR 2B. In these cases, we suggest that you make a representation before the GST authorities, your jurisdictional officer and the CBIC before availment of the credit in GSTR 3B, and give them a screenshot that while this is an eligible credit, yet due to the technical glitches in GST network on the GST portal, there is an error which is reflected, but this is your right and you are availing the input tax credit. This representation, even wide email, would come to your rescue in future cases where there could be inquiries or show cause notices in this regard by the GST authorities. Next, in GSTR 2B reconciliation, the issue is that you have to do a three-phase reconciliation. First phase, where till the return period of November 2021, you had taken the input tax credit on the basis of your purchase register, as also reiterated by the Honorable Supreme Court of India in the case of Bharti Airtel versus Union of India, where it answered a cardinal question that the input tax credit could be taken on the basis of books of accounts. However, you might have complied with the restriction under Rule 36(4), whereby you would not have taken input tax credit of more than 5%. What was the difference between your purchase register and GSTR 2A or 2B at that point in time? So that reconciliation you have to keep doing over the period of future returns, and you have to keep a separate tab. Now the question is, GSTR 3B is or GSTR 2B is a monthly statement wherein the invoices by which your supplier paid or uploaded the invoices on their GSTR 1 for the period 12th of the month to 11th of the next month would be reflected in GSTR 2B of the recipient, that is your recipient, you as a recipient in the instant case. Therein you have to do month on month reconciliation and you have to keep a tab. For example, for the return period January 2022, there could be two differences between the purchase register and GSTR 2B. ITC reflecting in your GSTR 2B but not reflecting in your purchase register in case of goods in transit or services for which bills were not received, or ITC reflecting in your purchase register but not reflecting in your 2B because of supplier non-compliance. This you have to keep a tab in the next month, and in the next month of February, while you do the same reconciliation for the month of February, you also have to carry forward the unreconciled items of January, and this would keep on accumulating and going forward. One way to handle this would be to accumulate your GSTR 2B month on month. So when you file the GSTR 3B for the month of March, then you accumulate the GSTR 2B for December, January, February, March and do a accumulated reconciliation, and ITC which you have taken in earlier periods you subtract from that. So this could be a simpler process rather than keeping a tab month on month. So this GSTR 2B reconciliation, this is a major challenge which you have been facing, and there was a confusion amongst many taxpayers as to how to handle this, and therefore it was important that we make a robust mechanism, because while assessment, month on month reconciliation would be mandatorily asked by the department, and in case the reconciliation cannot be shown month on month, then there would be implications of interest, at least, if not disallowance of input tax credit altogether. Another issue is the Ab-Initio cancellation of the registration of the supplier. In this case, shelter can be taken under the High Court judgment of LGW Industries pronounced by the Calcutta High Court. In this case, there are three important points to be noted. Number one, in case the supplier's GSTIN has been cancelled after you as a recipient of goods or services have taken the services or goods and corresponding input tax credit, then subject to other conditions of availing input tax credit, on this point itself, that is Ab-Initio cancellation, the input tax credit taken by you cannot be denied by the department. This point was very clearly held by the Honorable Calcutta High Court. Second, the Honorable Calcutta High Court also mentioned a very important issue, that it was the duty of the recipient of goods or services to identify the suppliers. Now, how do you identify your suppliers? It is important to have a due diligence of your suppliers, at least the material ones. In this, we suggest, and we are doing for large companies, you have a 3-point process. One, it may be worthwhile to do a physical verification of the place of business of your suppliers to understand whether they are actually existing or not in the place of business mentioned in the GSTRC. To take the GSTR 3B and 1 filed by the suppliers, and most important, to take a declaration from them that the tax which they have charged you and you have paid as a recipient of goods or services have been devolved by them to the department. Number 3 is to ensure other terms and conditions, that is having original tax invoice, you filing your GSTR 3B and GSTR 1 returns, etc. as per section 16 have been duly complied with. Friends, the last issue which we cover in this is a future issue for which you must be prepared from today, that is the amendments made in the GST law or proposed to be made by the Finance Bill 2022 under section 16(2)(ba), read with section 38(2)(b). In this regard, the Finance Bill has proposed that there would be 5 other restrictions on availment of ITC in case your supplier has not paid the amount of tax liability which is disclosed in the GSTR 1. That is, if there is a difference between the GSTR 1 and 3B tax liability of your supplier, or your supplier has availed input tax credit which is more than your supplier's GSTR 2B ITC, or in case your supplier has to pay a certain percentage of liability wide cash and he has not complied with that condition as of now, which is laid down in Rule 86(B), then your input tax credit for the purchases of goods or services made by you from the suppliers would be restricted. Number 4, fourth restriction, wherein for new suppliers, that is suppliers who are registered newly in GST for a certain cooling period, the ITC on the supplies made by them would be restricted, and in case of such other restrictions or restrictions on such other persons which the GST Council would notify. So friends, it is important that due diligence of the suppliers and due reconciliation of input tax credit from now should be done, and a strict control on availment on input tax credit to be maintained by you as a recipient of goods or services, so that in GST the litigations in future can be minimized. Of course, there would be queries, there would be issues which would be raised by the department, but in case the reconciliations are in place, then such issues can be minimized going forward. Thank you very much for watching. this video. Do keep on watching this channel for more videos on issues and solutions on input tax credit, GST refund and other issues on GST, on issues on income tax, FEMA, etc. Thank you very much.